like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm feeling myself right now. It's a new year. We about to do this. Let's go. I feel like the king of my city. Tony Montana. Whole lot of bands I gotta spend. I might go cop me a mansion. I feel like the king of my city.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
You are now tuning in to the Snap Call Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Snap Call. This is episode 7. I'm Xavier.
I'm Ice.
Hector.
And today we got a real special episode. We got Justin Smith with us. Justin, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, guys. By the way, I really like the name Snap Call. That's a good name for a call-in podcast.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, we had, we had launched years ago, and it was just kind of like apparel fun, and then we kind of made it into like this little multimedia content creation type of thing. So thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we wanted to get you on the podcast, talk all things poker, your return, and whatnot. But want to give you an opportunity, if you had to kind of sum up who Justin Smith is to our audience that may not know who you are, give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Oh, who am I? My answer is these open-ended questions are always good ones. You're just kicking it off strong.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say I like to say I'm a curious but optimistic and thoughtful human. I don't know, that's who I am.
Okay.
So I wouldn't categorize myself in anything like the normal categories.
Yeah.
I guess this is a poker podcast, so you want to say
No, definitely.
Justin Smith's alter ego is Boosted J. I
There you
guess
go.
is the answer maybe you want.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, I mean, we went to high school. We went back to middle school days, Horizon. Ice and I went to high school with Justin, so we've, always kind of known who you were, and it was always cool to kind of follow along on your journey, and from poker to Hollywood, and definitely got a lot to kind of dive in here. So appreciate your time today. I guess first and foremost, right, just to kind of kick it off, you pop into the WSOP buying into a PLO event, cameras are on you right away, right? Like, how did that feel? How does it feel to be back on the poker scene, even if it's not for full time? Like, what was your initial thoughts being back in the poker room?
Yeah, my initial thoughts were not too many thoughts. I just kind of showed up, and I was like, maybe I should go play some poker. And that's what I just kind of did. It was really on a whim. I kind of, maybe subconsciously in the back of my head, I've always known that this day was going to come. And I kind of decided to kind of retire from poker about 8 or 9 years ago. 9 years ago was my last World Series event, or summer. It was about 8.5 years ago. It was like my last cash game. I was playing a pretty big regular game in LA, and decided to quit. And I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. It's for a number of different reasons. At the time, it was a really good game for sure. So it was pretty powerful to make me quit. But yeah, and then I'd already been like slowly going in a certain direction, or a different direction, like a little bit away from poker. So it's kind of natural. But so coming back to it, like I still like follow a lot of poker Twitter and stuff. So, and I have a couple friends who I keep in contact with from poker. Not too many that I'm like regularly talking to friends with. I have a lot of old buddies from poker for sure, a lot of them. But people who I regularly communicate with, I've got a couple. And so like I hear things time to time about like how poker's evolved, and I was kind of curious about that coming back. I was like, how is that? And what really blew me away, which I really I really knew, or I suspected was going to happen, but it kind of ended up being something even more than I expected, which is like there's so many new players in the player pool. It's crazy. Poker's really grown in the past 9 or 10 years. So particularly at like even like the high stakes level, like there's so many different people who I have no idea who they are. I bought into the 10K PLO, and at my first table, the only person I knew was Josh Aria. I didn't know anyone else.
Oh, wow.
So, in the 25K PLO, first table, I didn't know anyone either. So, or at least when I first sat down. And then like Ike joined, I know him, of course. And this other, John Racner joined, I knew him too. He's another like person from Florida, not where we grew up, but I think he's from St. Petersburg.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so oh, and then Gus joined too. I know him, but at first the rest of the table I didn't know who they were. 25K people, I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
When I first started the game, so.
So 10 years ago, you would have known the majority, right, of who you're
Definitely.
sitting with. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then I find out that like the guy on my left is like before Ike sat. I think Ike took his seat, or maybe he was sitting to the left of Ike. No, the person sitting to the left of Ike is he's like maybe the best PLO player now. He's a Finnish player, and his name is if you said his name I would know it. But yeah, he's a Finnish player, and I think he's like maybe one of the very, very best PLO players. And I had no idea who he was. I'd never heard of him before.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that just goes to show how much the game's grown, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
That's great. Do you think that would be like a deterrent from like keep playing, or just like hey,
deterrent for me playing?
Yeah, like this is my scene anymore. Like I don't, I don't
Oh
have as
no
many
no
people.
no no! I like playing with fresh faces.
Yeah.
I think that's great. There's the poker economy is booming.
Yeah.
That's all I can tell you. From what I've seen the past few weeks, the poker economy is booming. There's a lot of games at the very high levels, and people are not shy to gamble for sure. So, yeah, no, I'm into it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. So obviously you have a really interesting story. So let's start off of how you got into poker. Let's dive into that, especially talk about your car accident and stuff, and how a friend taught you how to play poker or introduced you to the game.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you guys a question. When when my accident happened, did you guys even know that I started playing poker at that time?
We knew you got in an accident, but I didn't know you were playing poker. No.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So the story is, and it's really right for this podcast because you guys went to my high school. So, what
I
happened
remember
was
you used to work at Publix. That's about what I remember.
Albertsons.
Oh, Albertsons.
For a few weeks, and then I also worked at Watermania for like 2 years.
Oh my God, Watermania! Talk about throwing it back.
What did you say?
No, I said talk about throwing it back, huh? Watermania.
Yeah. I guess it's like shut down now, right?
Yeah, there's like a Golden Corral there now or something.
Yeah. So, So what happened was I was in a motorcycle accident, not a car accident. So I was in a motorcycle accident. I hit a car head on, and I was like in a coma for a few days, and then started playing because I was in a wheelchair basically for like my whole senior year, and I was like, how am I gonna? I lost my job at Albertsons as a great grocery bagger, and I was like, how am I gonna save up money to go to college and like do the thing? You know what I mean? Like what a lot of people aspire to do, which is go to college and try to figure it out from there. So I was home and I hit someone up who I played a lot of computer games growing up. So I had a long time friendship with a guy who I'd known like from the internet basically since I was like 9 playing computer games. So I hit him up He was like, "Hey, I got a lot of downtime in this wheelchair. Are there any new computer games out? Because I got time to kill." So he was like, "Well, no, I'm not playing computer games right now. I'm actually playing online poker." And I was like, "What?" I was like, I don't know anything about that except for I watched a few episodes of like main event final tables for like the past year before that. This was early 2005. So, um, and he was like, "I can teach you, and you can like watch me play." So, um, so that's my friend Brian, and he actually randomly just became a priest like a month ago.
Oh
I
wow.
went to his his ordination in New Jersey, uh,
Okay.
and so that's wild. And but so Brian taught me how to play, and I had like $50 saved up and put it online and started playing 1 cent, 2 cent limit hold'em full ring, and basically that's the origin story. And I I skipped most of my senior year of high school because I was uh, just uh, you know just difficult. Our high school was big, so it was just like hard to get around
Yeah.
in a wheelchair, not very convenient. I wasn't in a very good mood based off what had happened, and unfortunately, I had already like all my most of my graduating credits done, so um, I could just like figure it out a way to just like stay home, and the teachers were pretty cool with it because I guess I had some good teachers and they like understood the situation. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I just basically spent all my time for like a year in the wheelchair, just like grinding and like learning poker.
So
I
you
didn't have
said
anything else to do.
you started at 1 cent, 2 cent, and then you started little by little going up in stakes, or did you
hmm
play a certain tournament and hit a big score and jumped up in stakes right away?
No, it was a very steady climb, very steady, very steady. I mean, of course, I got bounced back down a few times along the way,
Mm-hmm.
as every poker player does. But it was pretty steady because I was never really like a big tournament player. Like I've won a few or whatever, but I was never like a super big tournament player, and I've never really won any tournament that's like a really 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 big score in relation to like the games that I was playing at that time. So yeah.
And nowadays, there's a lot of studying going on, GTO Wizard and stuff like that. Back in the day when you were starting, were you just playing 10 to 16 hours a day, or were you taking time and studying as well too?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought about this along the time. I I didn't study enough for sure during my career. I should have studied a lot more. I think it was the reason why is because I felt like I was missing out because I always had like games available to me. Um, because I started playing like a lot of like other mixed games. I started playing PLO and a lot of mixed games, so I had a lot of games to select from, and I had like accounts on every site and yada yada yada. So and then in live, and then I had like live games available to me too. So like I always had a game to play. So I felt like if I wasn't earning, then then I was basically like losing like opportunity cost or whatnot. But the smarter, wiser me now says I probably would have made more money um, had I had I studied a little more. So, but also like the tools today are much different from the tools
Yeah.
back then. We had Poker Tracker back then,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of was kind of dumb at figuring some of that stuff out, I guess you could say. Um, Whereas in hindsight now it seems so clear, you know, what could have been done. And I think a lot of people probably think that. I haven't had this conversation with pretty much anyone that plays high stakes, but looking back on it, even though the technology wasn't there back then, there's still probably ways to study back then that if you go back in time, you would know how to study based on like what technology was available to you. You would know what types of things to look for more,
Yeah,
probably.
more instincts instead of just going like GTO style? Just you would go base more off instinct and feel of the game and feel of the player.
No, because I definitely thought about that a lot. But don't know, like more like just like data that would be more GTO style. Some of my career, you know, it's different too because I mean I've battled a lot against a lot of like regs or whatever at different times, in like heads up or like full ring 6-handed or whatever. I've played tons of games like that, but I'd say the bulk of my career, and this isn't uncommon, is like there's always like one or two like crazy guys at the table, donks or whales or whatever you want to call them. Like there's always one or two at the table where like GTO style is not the best style to play.
Yep.
So, it's I mean, learning how to play, perfectly in that kind of sense, in a GTO sense, kind of will be good, but will only get you so far. And I was more so focusing on how to exploit the worst player at the table. And I was also trying to exploit the people who were failing to execute like GTO styles optimally. There's a lot of people failing badly. They were trying things and they thought they were right, but they weren't really right. So.
And was there like a certain big score that you hit that all of a sudden you started playing higher stakes? Or was it just you play 1-2, then you went to $5, $10, like 20, 25, whatever stakes you playing in? Or did you win like a tournament? Because then you started playing really, really high stakes.
Yeah, really slow. It was a slow climb. I moved over to no limit hold'em cash games from limit hold'em cash games after playing for about 9 months. I was grinding like limit hold'em. I grinded up playing limit hold'em to a place where I was making like $2,000 a month, but had like $2,000 in bills. It was like I was playing like 1-2 and 2-4 limit hold'em.
So you didn't kill like a cash game session that, hey, I banked 30, 40K and now I'm starting to play higher. You just little by little, 2,000 today, 1,000, 500.
Yeah.
Just a
Little
constant
by
grind.
little.
Wow.
Little by little. Not little by little. I mean, it was, at times, the wins have been very large in relation to like bankroll, but more like reasonable compared to like
So
the
you
losses
grinded.
were
Sorry.
capped
So
in
you
different
grinded
ways.
no limit. You grinded no limit for your first like 9 months, and then moved over to PLO. You just saw a better opportunity there. Or?
No. Limit hold'em
Okay.
in the first 9 months. Yeah, it was
Gotcha.
strictly limit hold'em in the first 9 months. Then I moved to no limit hold'em. So that was like late 2005. No limit hold'em. I started playing. I started playing PLO mixed games like in 2006. About a year and 4 months probably after I started playing poker.
Yeah.
Started playing mixed games with PLO, and then
Okay.
PLO got very popular. And I was kind of like the only young guy playing mixed games at the time too. Thing is that mixed games there weren't too many smaller games. Like I kind of had to like jump into like the biggest game available to play, and yeah, at least online. There weren't like too many smaller games running. The game was just only running like the biggest stakes, so that was a
Was
little tricky.
was your start in focusing on limit hold'em in the beginning? Was that by design, like because there's less variance in limit? Like, was that a
That was
conscious effort or?
that was just what my friend Brian was a specialist in.
Okay.
He played limit hold'em, so he taught me limit hold'em.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Does he still play as a priest? I don't know.
he does. He still does play. Yeah, I didn't know that you were allowed to play, but he does. I call him Triple P, poker playing priest. But he plays at the Borgata sometimes.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, so you're grinding online, right? But then you're traveling a lot. You're on the cover of Bluff magazine. You're playing with the best players in the world. you on, was it high stakes poker playing as well too?
Poker After Dark.
Poker After Dark. How did you get there? Somebody you knew? You went to Vegas? You met the right people?
Just playing the biggest games, I guess, and people, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, I just started playing a lot live, and like with poker, like there is a bit to do with like networking in poker, I think. So like there's like some politics, especially now more than ever today, and now more now than ever before, in like private games and stuff, like, and not just private games, but like and like being able, like, building network and building relationships to, get the heads up when, you know there's a game, like the foreman will call you, or you know another player in the game will call you. You might be able to take pieces of people in profitable spots. You might need someone to take a piece of you. um, you know just like there's a lot of different reasons why having good network can be useful, if you want to maximize. So by having a lot of relationships, I think, and just by being around, I mean, playing some of those games, I was just like playing with some of the people involved is like very natural. And part of it was also that, I was like sponsored by Full Tilt. So like, I think if I remember correctly, probably some of the invites came through them or whatnot.
Yeah.
It was kind of normal. I was playing like the big games, and they were like, "We want you." So like they were just like they just invited me.
How did you get that sponsorship? Was it before the WPT where you finished second, or was it just constantly putting a name for yourself online, and like you said, networking? You met the right people, and they were able to sponsor you.
It was just because I think they just reached out and was like, "Hey, we want you to become a Full Tilt Pro or whatever," and I think we like negotiated a deal, and that's what happened. I think it happened. It happened. It happened before my first World Series, I think, um,
Cool.
or maybe the year of. It's like 2009, I think, or no, it's before. Had to have been before. Had to have been before. Yeah, I think it was like 2008 or so.
Were you the youngest pro signed Full Tilt at that time?
Good question. I mean, I think I was like 20, so
Because you were doing this thing real young compared to everybody else.
I was barely 17 when I first started. So yeah, and then I was playing pretty high stakes by 18. So
It's crazy.
that was pretty young. Yeah, no, I was full over like 19 or 20. So like, if not the youngest, then one of the youngest, for sure.
Was there ever a moment where you were just like, holy shit, like,
How am I here?
I like, this is where I'm
This
at
is
right
awesome.
now. Like, this is what I'm gonna.
Yeah.
At least at that time, your mindset was, this is what I'm gonna continue to do. Was there ever like a holy crap moment, like, this is my life, or
I made it.
was it ever just kind of like, you just kind of live in the moment and just kind of do your thing?
It's always moved so fast. There hasn't really been much time to stop for a moment, or at least during like the bulk of my career. The first part, maybe there's about to be a second part. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, the revival.
But during the first, whatever it was, 10 years of my career or whatever, there's never a moment to stop. I was also young, things were happening fast. Things were happening really fast. Like there's always a new situation happening. It's crazy, like chasing some whale or something, and figuring out how to win all the money.
Yeah.
How did you handle that too? That nightlife as well too, because playing poker, obviously, a lot of the games, unless it's like a private game, a lot of the good action games happen at night, and then with the poker life comes the hangouts and the other stuff like that. How were you able to balance that at such a young age?
Well, part of it was I was in a long-term relationship, really long-term relationship. Um, so she actually went to Gateway. So
Oh, nice. She was a Panther.
uh, so like I'd been with her since I was like 14. So we're not together anymore, but we were in a very committed relationship. So like that kept me away from partying a bit. I never did drugs, so that kept me away from it a little bit too. But I definitely still partied for sure. But there's like a cap to how crazy things could get for me personally. Because I was just focused on trying to like win the most money. I wasn't trying to focus. I wasn't really focused on my partying necessarily. Um, so to answer your question, um, at first, actually, I had a big problem with hours and like the lifestyle and stuff, like the stress of it all. You know, where we come from, very humble, very humble town and stuff, and um, it actually, it actually really affected me uh, a lot. Um, about 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 a year and a half into my career, like around June, July, August 2006, I really had a really rough time actually with like started being up all night, and I would go to bed at like 9 a.m. because I'd be playing online because the best games also at the time were definitely through the night online, and so I was like I had a backwards sleep schedule, and it took me a minute to really get back on a normal schedule, and then I kind of like put a cap to like, all right, I'm not staying up past like 3 a.m. from now, pretty much, and you know, I'd say that's mostly how it stayed, actually, for the most of my career, but like, I would sometimes make exceptions to like 4 or 5 if there's like really, really good games. But I was never the guy who would stay awake for like 48 hours. I wasn't that guy. So I've learned that sleep is super, super priority. So yeah.
That's good because at a young age, and we all know the grind of poker, 12, 18, 24 hours straight, 48 hours straight. And you see these stories like Mike Mattisall that, starts off good and all of a sudden he hits a bender, starts using drugs and stuff like that and just can't control it, Just because you get all this fame, all this money at a young age, it's hard because a lot of people think poker is just a lot of glamour, but they don't know exactly what goes into the grind and stuff like that. And sometimes when you're in these private games or cash games and stuff like that, you got to grind 20, 24 hours. You got to use drugs to stay awake. So that's good that you handle that at a young age because that can be a downfall of a lot of poker players.
Yeah, I've never used drugs to stay awake. I've never used drugs in general, but yeah, it's intense. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into poker besides playing GTO.
Yeah, for sure.
Outside of like, the typical, bankroll management, get your sleep, put in the hours, like for hot shots that are coming up nowadays, right? Like the game is very different than, when you were like playing consistently. What type of advice would you give to someone that is already putting in hours and putting in the time, not necessarily someone new to the game, but if you could give like some notes of advice, what would you say? Like knowing that you've kind of you've seen poker 360, you've had a lot more exposure than most people. What kind of advice would you lend to them?
A lot of people, actually, shockingly, because we're all humans, I think a lot of people do this quite well. Like, I think there's a lot of real like poker grinders out there who are very conservative and make a good amount of money and never have crazy swings and never play over their role or outside their comfort zone. Um, it's shocking actually how many people are like that. Um, but I would just say be more like that. Don't get ahead of yourself. Know for sure that you're winning in the game you're playing, particularly if you're playing big. If you're playing, higher than normal, take breaks, go live life. That's like just normal human advice. Like I didn't live life very much. I was so all I wanted to do, like since growing up, not really having like really any money. I want to just make as much money as possible. So I think that was something that drove me to play the kind of real. I put in a lot of hours. Like I really, really, really put in a lot of hours. Really a sickening amount of hours. So I think,
I think I saw a
um,
story about you. You were playing in the shower. You had your laptop in the shower or something. I don't know the
yeah,
truth to that, but I was like, wow.
yeah. Where did you find that out from? That's true.
Oh man, I think I read it a couple. I think I read it a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
true.
it was crazy.
There's actually a really great photo, and I don't know where it is. I don't have it, and it exists somewhere, and I wish I had it, but I think the photo got deleted from like an iPad or whatever. But I have my laptop on a tray, like a dinner tray, set up in the shower, and I put like saran wrap over the laptop, so it wouldn't get wet. And
That's awesome.
I was playing like I was playing a couple tables of like 1K, 2K, 8 game mix in the shower, because the game was so good. But like I had such an important dinner meeting that I had to go to. This is when I first moved to LA, and like I was trying to like do things outside poker,
Hmm.
and I really had to go. But the games were so good that I was like, if I have to shower and go to this thing, I have to play for another 20 minutes, like for sure. I was saying, I think I lost 70,000 in the shower,
Oh
which
man,
It's expensive
70,000
which
shower.
shower, man.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
man.
it wasn't good. Um,
So so you talked about you want people to take breaks, and you took a very long break. Was it from burnout? Like, was it hard for you to even like remove yourself from poker, or was it just easy? Like, hey, I'm done.
yeah, I'm not just saying like when I say breaks, I meant like breaks, like go do something with your life.
Yeah.
Like try to if you're a professional poker player, play for 5 days and take a whole weekend off
Hmm.
and go live a life that has nothing to do with poker.
Yeah.
Don't go to the strip club the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Don't go gamble on pool or something like that. Like what I mean, like go don't study over the week. Like go do something else. Go live life.
Yeah.
And but to answer your question, yeah, I mean like part of the reason why I quit was or took a break, I guess. I guess a very long,
Yeah.
long break. Um, which is crazy that my break is as long as I played poker for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like 9 years. I basically played poker for 9 years, and then I took a 9 year break. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, part of it was like burnout. I think I did burn myself out. I know I burnt myself out for sure.
Hmm.
Um, and it was just time for me to go do other things in my life
Hmm.
for sure. Yeah, poker is a zero sum game at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I
So
really wanted to be more involved in like creative
yeah.
endeavors and doing
So,
other things outside of poker.
so let's get into that. What are you doing now? What are you doing now
Well,
these days?
over the past years, and even while I was playing poker, I was getting into it too. Um, like as my like career producing movies was scaling up, my poker playing career was scaling down. So um, I've been producing movies, writing some movies, TV shows too, producing TV shows,
Hmm.
and in music too, doing some music business stuff. Um, there's some other things I've invested in stuff, but for the most part, it's just a lot of movies and music business.
Yeah.
But we're doing the Doyle Brunson movie.
Hmm.
So we got his life rights before he died. Doyle contacted us through a series of people, and I played a lot with Doyle, a good amount with him. So like he knew me as like he heard that I retired from poker and become a producer, but he also had played a lot with me, so he knew that I understood his mentality and the mentality of a high stakes poker player and gambler, and so he trusted that I can make a good movie and also do it in like a very authentic way. So I'm very thankful that he saw that. And yeah, we're pretty excited about it. I think a lot of people are gonna see. I mean, at the World Series this year, it's crazy. I mean, I had 100 people come up to me, And like I've been away from the game for so long, and
Yeah.
like I couldn't believe that so many people came up to me, and these are like random people that are just random people that are just at the World Series. Like then I had a lot of people also who like, we were just chatting at the table, like people who I know or whatever, or we were just chatting at the table and people were like asking about it. So
Yeah.
yeah, people are really, really, they definitely have an appetite for that. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think there's a very large built-in fan base for this.
Yeah, we're excited for that as well.
Yeah. Is there anything that you learned within the process of him that you're like, oh wow? I mean, you don't have to give anything away in the movie or anything like that, or what plan?
From Doyle,
Yeah.
process. Well, mm, yeah, I mean, I think I don't think I learned anything new. I knew a good amount about him already.
Okay.
I mean, I learned some stories.
Yeah.
Like you always hear like, or I always heard that like, you know, in Doyle's day it was different or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you hear the stories and then make them part of the story, part of the movie, like the stories are really crazy. Like we're all talking about the same game here. It's
Mm-hmm.
also poker.
Yeah.
Where these games are like the stories that we're talking about in Doyle's history and past are also the game of poker. It's so crazy that like back in the 60s and 70s in Texas, like he was doing this.
Yeah, I think the one I know is just like that he's just always he was always strapped, and then like someone was trying to rob him at his house or something, and he's
Yeah.
pulling out a gun.
Yeah, there's a famous story of him getting robbed at his house with his wife. And well, the best part about that, and it's not spoiling the movie because it's in his autobiography, but
Yeah.
what happened when he got robbed at his house was he had a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know this exact story right, but basically what had happened was, he didn't have the gun on him at the time, I think,
Okay.
but he was going to use a strategy which they had done, which was um, he faked a heart attack so he like fell to his knees and started crying that he was having a heart attack,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't a good actor, so like the robber, like I think like kicked him or something and was like, don't try that shit, get in the house. And like Doyle just like kind of like knew the jig was up and like just stood up and like walked inside the house like after crying that he was having a heart attack.
Oh man.
So that was kind of funny, but like it didn't work at all.
Yeah.
The trick that he had talked about for years, like he was like, if I ever get robbed, I'm gonna like fake a heart attack and it's gonna work out, and I'm gonna find a way to, like when the robber comes up to him, I'm gonna like steal his gun and then shoot him, and like the plan just failed miserably.
That's awesome.
Do you guys already have a cast for that? You already got like a guy that played Doyle Brunson already? Not
No
yet?
cast, no cast. Yet. We have some people in mind though for sure. Big movie stars.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Exciting. That is
Do you
Yeah.
know what's that guy that plays at Orange City? It's like one of Doyle's best friends, the Hall of Famer.
he was a good friend of Doyle supposedly. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. We had met with Orange City and their shift
Dewey? Is it
managers.
Dewey?
Dewey Tomko.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dewey is in Orange City every single day, playing over here, and the shift managers are like, hey, like if you want to get some good Doyle stories, go talk to Dewey one night, and or one day just go get him a beer. So we're like, all right, we're gonna try and get him on a podcast and shoot the shit with him. But yeah, Dewey Tomko, we see him often at Orange City.
Awesome. Yeah. I think I played a couple of private games with him back in Orlando when I was like 17 or 18, when I was like coming up.
Nice. So, parallels, right? Like Hollywood and poker, like whether it was in the beginning or now, do you see any parallels with poker now that you've been in the industry for some time, whether it's taking risk or the networking side? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think poker. There's a lot of they're cheesy. We kind of like roll our eyes at them, but there's so many different metaphors that you learn about life from poker. I mean, poker's really created the foundation in my life of like how to think about life in certain types of ways, and like analyze risk, extrapolate all those ideas into like how you think about life. Some things definitely can't be taught about life from anything, poker specifically, but there are actually a lot of things dealing with people, understanding people's emotions, how that affects the decisions that they make. You see these things up close and personal, money management, you know. Yeah, there's a lot of concepts in poker that you can learn for sure.
So you came back. You decided to play the PLO event, and I know we mentioned some of this off air. But what are some of the biggest differences that you see from now and 9 years ago? I know the people changed, but is the strategy different? Do you see a lot of different moves that you weren't, you know?
Yeah, people in the PLO were playing more conservatively pre-flop,
Mhm.
which I have been doing for a long time. I've been like open limping a lot of hands, particularly in PLO tournaments. There's a lot more of that I witnessed, and people bet smaller on flops than they did before, for sure. In PLO,
Interesting.
those were just like the most obvious ones. That just pretty simple.
Yeah. So, I mean, WSOP. I don't know if you're watching the main event and the whole controversy over the solvers at the end. I guess what were your thoughts on that, or running the sims between hands, or?
Good question. I think rules should just be applied. Like if a rule's a rule, then it just needs to be applied.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have an opinion if that should be allowed or not? I think I saw something written on Twitter somewhere where like the idea was like maybe during breaks you can go study
Yeah.
Yeah.
or something, but not between hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
That probably seems good.
I think
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing is like, go ahead, run whatever sims you want. Obviously, they've got the laptop up and they're watching the stream on a delay. But leave it to breaks, like
Yeah.
leave it on the breaks. I think there's just like a
Agreed.
certain like aura about poker. You see these old videos from back in the day, these final tables, and like they weren't running to this. I mean, obviously it didn't exist, but they weren't running to the side to get this
Yeah.
information. And I think it almost hurt poker a little bit. Like from a
Yeah.
like a high level view, but
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me.
He hit the head on the nail there. That it's just enforcing it, because it's already a rule that they're saying over the announcements of, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. But also, we talked about in the podcast earlier of how they were letting people late reg past the late registration, and then it wasn't until people made an uproar that they were like, all right, now we're going to cut it off and enforce it. So there's too much leniency on certain rules.
Yeah, like we had posted on our Instagram pretty much like an interaction question, like how do we feel? Everybody put no besides me. And the reason is
Like
like
30
if you
no's,
guys
30
aren't
no's.
enforcing it, you can't be mad at the people that are doing it. So I said, hey, if they don't, there's no consequences for it. Like just let it just let it go.
Like it's an angle.
Yeah, pretty much like if you don't enforce it, don't complain about it.
Yeah, just like like our principal Miss Pace. Sometimes she let someone get away with something, but
Good old Miss Pace, man.
So I know you said it was just on a whim, but was there, I guess, anything in particular that you were like, I'm gonna go play, and I'm gonna
I've
play
been
this
thinking
event?
about it.
Like,
I've been thinking about poker a lot because of the Doyle project,
gotcha.
and we actually have two other gambling projects too that we won't talk about right now. But
Okay.
we have two other gambling role projects too
Okay.
that are actually pretty good, and we're
Just kinda
excited
gave you a
about.
niche.
And so I've just been thinking about it a lot, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go play.
I gotcha. Kind of the same way we started this podcast, and now I'm just like, let's go play.
Yeah, and I felt good about it. I was like,
Yeah, you gotta feel
it's a good time.
Yeah, and I actually play less because we're so busy with the podcast. But yeah,
Was there anything particular about the 10K PLO? Like, did you target that tournament, or were you just like, I feel good. Let me see what they're running today, and just jumped into it? Because I know, PLO is like one of your specialties, right? Like, did you target that specific tournament?
Yeah, I mean, play a lot of hands at PLO. I think probably my biggest edge is probably PLO tournaments.
Okay.
I think that's definitely my biggest edge tournaments. There's a lot of edge in PLO in general, but in tournaments too, I think there's a lot of edge. So, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, that makes
And it was
sense.
towards the end of the series, and that's when I was available to go play. So, I mean, I late regged. I mean, I decided I was going to Vegas at like 4 p.m. got on like a 5:30 p.m. flight. I landed and I think it registered at like 7 p.m. So, and then I stayed in Vegas for like 2.5 weeks. That was not fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, one thing we wanted to make sure we asked you is so like whenever we get someone on, we do this like Mount Rushmore of poker, right? Like we all have like we've gone through this like quote unquote exercise, and it's kind of putting you on the spot, but it's kind of by design as well. So like, if you had to pick your 4 players for your Mount Rushmore poker, who would they be? And it's accounting for longevity, helping the growth of the game,
Yeah, whatever you feel is important.
tournament earnings, whatever, right? Like, who would you say has to be up there?
Oh, helping the growth of the game has to be up there too, not like who I think is just best.
Yeah, I mean, it could be skill based, but like when you take poker as a whole, like like Negreanu was pretty much on all of ours just because his
Yeah, like we have
agenda,
Moneymaker, even though like we know there's better players than Moneymaker, but
Yeah.
the
just
boom
the boom itself.
Well,
created.
I mean, quite clearly Negreanu.
Mhm.
Phil Ivey is just unbelievable. What he's done, winning at the highest levels for this long is actually quite crazy. Doyle
Yeah.
has to be Doyle too,
Mhm.
and Mount Rushmore's 4 people, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Phil Hellmuth. I mean,
Mhm.
it's got to be those 4. I don't know how it's any other way.
Yeah, that was my 4. Tell him your 4 because
I had Ivy Negrano, Patrick Antonius, and Doyle Brunson.
Okay, Patrick's an amazing player, great guy.
and Patrick just got into the Hall of Fame this year, right? Yeah. So yeah, same
That's
here.
right.
I think ours was pretty much aligned, like Helmuth, Moneymaker, Negreanu, and who was my 4th one now? Doyle.
Yeah. No, mine was Negreanu, Ivy, No, not Negreanu. Negreanu was 5th for me. It was
Yeah,
like honorable mention.
You had Ivy and
Yeah, Ivy. It was Ivy. Ivy over Negreanu.
Yeah, we had a big
Ivy,
debate.
Helmuth, Doyle, Moneymaker.
We had announced like our Mount Rushmore,
Yeah.
and they're giving me crap about not having Ivy in it. And then
Yeah.
he was already like right there.
Yeah.
And then literally like 2 days later, he took down he
wins
took a
a bracelet.
bracelet. And I was like, oh, of course. Like tells me to shut up. He ends his drought, and it's a good time.
Well, yeah, it seems like we're all on the same page though in general.
Yeah.
Now, I was definitely want to ask you because I mean these are people that these are your peers, right? Like you've played the
Yeah.
game, so it sounds like we've got a good handle on who should be there.
Is there anyone you tried to stay away from?
Well, I can tell you that there's been a couple players to like really hold over me.
Mhm.
Like I've played a lot with like Ivy, for example, but I've kind of gotten like the best of him a little bit.
Mhm.
But I don't think that I'm like a better player than him, obviously. But there's people who have just like anyone, like whoever you're playing with, like the people that you play with on a regular basis, like it just seems like for whatever reason they just really beat you. And there's a lot of people who you probably don't know or just like random online players from the past that I've realized it's like a stylistic thing. Sometimes it's stylistic, bad matchup, and then sometimes people just like exploit you in bad ways or you don't adjust in good ways. And for me, David Benjamin and Gus Hansen have definitely crushed me.
Nice. I like Gus.
They
I'm a
have
big
both.
Gus fan.
They have both definitely crushed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I'll say about that.
That's
But they shouldn't have crushed me at least that bad, if at all.
You got it in good, is what you're saying.
Both incredible players, obviously.
Oh,
I mean, incredible players. I mean, they just win every single time against me.
absolutely. No, that's great. Let's see. So, future endeavors, right? Obviously, the Doyle project is probably like your biggest thing on your plate. A couple other poker projects. Is there anything else like we should be looking out for, whether it's from you specifically or you along with Radar Pictures? Like anything on the horizon that we should look for?
We do a lot of movies. I mean, any of our movies are great. It's always putting a movie together is like a parlay of events. So a lot of things have to go right for it to happen. So you never know exactly when it's going to happen or if it's exactly going to happen. at any particular time until it just happens. The stars have to really align, so we're all the time putting them together, and anything that comes out, definitely check it out because I think it's good. So hopefully it'll be good.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that I'm doing, I just want to spend my time in the best way possible.
Do you have a timeline for the Doyle thing, like 25, 26?
I would like to be shooting it next year for sure.
Okay.
Definitely. So usually it would come out like about a year after it shoots.
Nice.
So,
Awesome. If you need any extras, just like
Random
100
poker
feet,
player
100 feet
number
away,
one.
just playing, acting like we're playing 1-2 poker, just let us know.
Well, we could tell you.
yeah, a lot of people hit me up about this. Just keep hitting me up though.
Yeah, no doubt.
We could tell you a story.
Maybe we can make it
Talking
happen.
about when Doyle almost ran us over.
Yeah, you could tell you that could be in the movie.
Oh yeah. The only anecdote we have of Doyle is we were standing outside of the Bellagio. I forgot. I think we were just waiting for our name to get called. And Doyle, at this point, he was on his little scooter, and he about ran both of us over.
I feel like I've heard of a lot of people telling me the story of Doyle almost running me over.
Yeah.
We had like gotten pizza. I think Doyle had ice cream in his hand, and
He would definitely have ice cream in his hand. That's
Yeah, see?
definitely something.
there you go. Yeah,
He definitely likes ice cream.
that's awesome. One random question, just like we didn't have kind of up here, was, is there anyone that you can like divulge that, like, whether it's in Hollywood or in Vegas, that was a really good poker player that people wouldn't have any idea about? An actor or anything like that. I mean, I know back in the day, I don't know if you still hang out with him, Andy Milanakis. Was Andy any good at poker?
Who do I think is the best? That would be unsuspecting.
I can only imagine like what some of these lineups look like in these games, but yeah.
Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart.
Okay.
Kevin Hart. That's the answer.
We've seen him play on I think like the
Bahamas or the Poker Stars.
yeah, and he's done some events that like they stream on Poker Go. Okay, Kevin Hart. So I've heard, and you don't got to answer this, but I've heard he is quite the degenerate. So
I don't think degenerate is the right word for it.
no.
I think he's got more energy than probably anyone, and he keeps a very full schedule. That's for sure.
Nice.
I think he plays a decent amount of poker, but definitely not a degenerate. I don't think that's accurate.
Okay.
I have a few questions, and we can edit it out if stuff you don't want to talk about and stuff like that. One of the questions I had was with Full Tilt. You were sponsored with Full Tilt. Obviously, you know what happened with Full Tilt with the whole money and stuff like that. Did you see anything? Were you aware of it, or you had any ideas that was going on, or anything like that? Or
Totally, very far away from that. I mean, no clue. I mean, I wasn't part of the ownership of Full Tilt, so I didn't have any information.
did you have any money in your account that they didn't pay you back? Or?
made whole.
It would be like asking, who's sponsored by Nike? Like it'd be asking like a random basketball player if like they knew about like Nike not handling their money the right way.
Yeah.
Or it's like they just wear like a Nike shoe during a basketball game.
Yeah, I just remember walking through WSOP one year, and we had Chris Ferguson over right next to us, and just people were just throwing insults. And I was just like, oh my god, but not my business. Awesome. Any other questions?
No. I would say I like that Power Rangers short.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Thank you. I forget too often that I did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was special.
Yeah, that was before
That was
the new remake that came out and all that, and I was like, they should make it.
It
like
was
this.
it was before the new reboot.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I would like to think that maybe we inspired something.
There you go.
There.
I have one more. I have one more question. We talked about it off air as well too, but just for the viewers, it's public knowledge and stuff like that. When you went to jail, right? How long were you there? And were you there for that long? And also, was it like you had your highs in poker? You finished second in WPT for 6 figures, cover Bluff magazine. When you got into this, was it kind of like, did you hit a depression after that, or you were just like, hey, it was just sports betting, It's Vegas. You know, if you can go to any sports book in Vegas and bet on games, but obviously you guys had your own books. How was that? Like that whole situation? Like how did you handle that?
I mean, I got arrested for being a professional sports bettor. So, like, I pled guilty to the UIGA, which is like, that law that they made in, I think, like 2007, which like basically stopped payment processors to work with like online poker sites,
Yeah.
which was like added to like a port security bill. Not many people have ever been convicted of it, but that's the crime I pled guilty to. I went to jail for a day, um, in which I had a very big bet actually to be a pescatarian for a year. And the thing is that they only had a turkey sandwich in jail, and I was very hungry. I get low blood sugar, so I actually had to eat the turkey sandwich. And then when I bailed out, I told the people who I had the bet with, which I made the bet like 2 months before, and it's for 1 year. I was like, hey, here's the deal. This is what happened. I propose that I don't eat any more meat except for fish for the next 10 months. And if I do that, then the bet's a wash. And everyone agreed. Everyone who I bet agreed, and I didn't eat meat for the next 10 months, just fish. And but if I hadn't eaten that one turkey sandwich, I would have made a lot of money. So,
Could you have taken the turkey
so
out and just eat everything else?
what's that?
Could you have taken out the meat and just eaten everything else?
I wanted my protein, man. I didn't know how long I was going to be in there for. I may need to like get the protein, start working out, and like try to convince people that I was like not easy to be messed with. I don't know. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But no, the best thing that I realized was that shook out a lot of things for me in my life, and like also in poker world too, with like relationships. And I think I just started to like look at my life in a different way after that happened. So I really wanted to spend my time doing the things that I really wanted to be doing, like for me, and not just like trying to do something that was just going to make money, which is what for me poker was for the most part.
Yeah.
So it maybe had just a realization of that. But yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Do you still this is gonna be super random. You're probably gonna be like, where did you pull this from? But yoga. I remember like years ago. I remember seeing you doing a yoga with, I think it was DDP, like at your house or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. DDP was he stayed at my house for about 2 months with me because he was a star of our Netflix TV show. It's called Guardians of Justice on Netflix. So he's the star of it.
Nice.
So while we were shooting, he was staying at my house.
Nice. Yeah, I just remember
Him and his family and his wife and his daughter.
I was just like on social media somewhere, and I'm like scrolling. I mean, obviously years ago now, scrolling through, and I'm like, is that Justin with DDP? Like,
Yeah.
in what world are we living in right now? It's quite the crossover.
Yeah, wild.
Awesome.
DDP yoga.
Yeah, DDP yoga.
We've seen a lot of pictures of you with a lot of celebrities. What are your top 5 celebrities you met? Obviously, when you either playing poker or doing movies. We've seen you with Manny Pacquiao, which is a big figure.
Oh yeah, I mean, okay. Because I wouldn't say like, I mean, celebrities are just people, you know. And so like, I wouldn't say like any of my favorites, but I won't say 5, but I'll say a couple. Manny was an interesting when I played a good amount of poker with him. And one time, I like made a crazy bluff. I think I 3-bet him on a flop, and then like bet over pot on the turn, and like bet all in for like 3x pot on the river or something. And this is a no hold'em, and I had like just nothing, like for real, just nothing, like no draw, like just totally nothing. But I don't know what it was. This is a long time ago, but it's some kind of read that I had that I definitely had some sort of read that he just wasn't going to call me. He just really wasn't going to call, and he like from the onset of the hand, I just knew that he didn't have a strong hand. I knew that he would end up folding, and it took a little extra couple bets than I thought it was going to take. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be that big of a bluff, but it was quite a big bluff, and when I was about to muck my hand, when he folded, he said, "Stop! Show me! Show me! Show me! Show me!" And he kept like yelling at me. He's like, "Show me! Show me!" I was like,
Oh man.
and you know, it's a thing when like if a fish is in the game, you don't really want to like rub salt on the wound if you end up like outplaying them in a hand.
Yeah.
So I was like, ah, like nah, I'm not gonna show it. It's okay. It's okay. I was like, you know, he's like, no, no, show me. You gotta show me. You gotta show me. And he kept saying that. I was like, you sure? I was like, you really you really want me to show you? He's like, yes, I have to see the cards. Show me the hand. Show me your hand. So I turned over my cards, and the table like erupted because it was like it was actually like a really crazy situation. Like the way that the hand went, people were like, what the fuck just happened? And he looked at my cards and he looked up and he looked at me with like really intense eyes
Man.
and threw his chair back.
Oh
Threw
man.
his chair back, stood up, and started charging around the table at me.
No
And
shot.
came right up to me. I'm like, oh my god, I'm about to get knocked out by a fucking Pacquiao. But then he came up to me and he just started like all of a sudden just like laughing and he hugged me.
Nice.
So,
Nice. That's a
um,
story. Oh man.
by the way, when he would show up and he would play, like he would show up with like an entourage of like no less than 40 people, all wearing like Pacquiao like gear, like Pacquiao like sweatsuits and stuff.
Wow.
Really crazy. But yeah, that was during the peak of like his career too. So it's like he's a really special guy, you know, for sure. You know, I was really excited to be in his presence. I'll say one other person who I've played poker with that's been really, really interesting is I've spent a lot of time with Larry Flint, and that was a really special relationship, and played a lot of poker with him. He's just an incredible figure, you know. The guy got shot in the back and his spine and paralyzed at an early age for, you know, essentially being the first person to depict like, you know, interracial porn, you know. And I'm actually not a supporter of porn, but the idea of like, you know, him getting shot to, you know, have you know, display like an interracial relationship, you know, I think is strong, and he did it. He did it for a great reason. I mean, his movie biopic, by the way, is also amazing. It's The People versus Larry Flint. The movie is incredible.
Yeah, I remember
Woody
seeing that.
Harrelson plays him. It's an incredible movie. But yes, that was a really special person where I really felt like, wow, I'm in the presence of someone who's like done something like remarkable with their life.
That's awesome.
There's some other people too that I'm probably not thinking of at this time, but those are just two.
Yeah, it'd be awesome if you guys Radar, your company that you work for, can do like a story on Manny Pacquiao, like his beginnings and what he's doing now for the Philippines and stuff like that, because he does a lot.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's not a bad idea.
He has an interesting story, Manny Pacquiao.
It's definitely like a rags to riches. I mean, I saw his documentary. My friend produced his documentary. I went to the premiere of it. That was like 9 or 10 years ago. Great documentary. I liked it. But yeah, it's doing a real movie. It would be pretty cool too, though.
Cool. That's awesome.
I just wish that he had beat Mayweather.
Yeah. I think all of us for the most part.
Yeah, that's
I also bet a lot of money on it and I lost.
there you
But
go.
that would have
just
been
for
the perfect ending to the movie.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that would have been a perfect ending.
I'm a big Pacquiao fan, but that fight really got me upset at him just because, you know, you talking. He doesn't do too much talking, but everybody's talking for him pretty much. Like, this is the fight. You know, he applies the pressure to Mayweather. He's going to throw all these punches. Then he doesn't do that during the fight. And push comes to shove, his shoulder. It's like, don't get in the ring then, because all these fans are paying $100 each to see the pay-per-view, and you don't put up the fight. So that really rubbed me kind of wrong with Pacquiao. But I'm a big Pacquiao fan. But that fight, for me, it was just like, it didn't do him justice, at least for me, as a fan, as a boxing fan.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, Justin, thank you so much for talking.
That was awesome.
Beginning, middle, and end of poker, giving us some fun stories to chat about. It's been a pleasure having you on, man. We look forward to the Doyle projects, the other poker projects, anything Radar's coming out with. You know, just appreciate you coming on, telling us a a little bit more about maybe you know what isn't out there already, and just want to definitely thank you for your time today.
Amazing. Thanks so much for reaching out and allowing me to come on. It's really special to do this with you guys.
I appreciate it, man. You're
man.
from the hometown Kissimmee, so it's good to see a guy from my hometown do something good.
Yeah.
Definitely. And
Point Sienna specifically.
Sienna, yeah.
Yeah.
Last thing. Are we gonna see Justin Smith on the poker scene a little bit more consistently now? Can we officially say you're back? Or
I think a little more. I don't know how much more, but we'll see.
awesome.
We'll see. I'm still deciding.
Gotcha. Well, hey man, we look forward to seeing you. Our plan is to be out in Vegas again next summer. Would love to chop it up with you sometime, man. And
Cool.
again, thanks so much.
Sounds
Stay
good,
in
guys.
touch.
Have a great day.
All right, have a good
Thanks.
one. Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
so much. Bye.
Yeah, you know, I'm feeling myself right now. It's a new year. We about to do this. Let's go. I feel like the king of my city. Tony Montana. Whole lot of bands. I got